Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. All right. We see the High Priestess. Press like, subscribe, notification. I like to tell unique stories that will not resonate with everyone. The point is giving the story out. Okay, so someone's making a drink. Also, this reminds me of blood vials or vial bloods. I don't know. This is blood, though. To me, it reminds me of blood. Or Encantarito. I come from siren blood. My bloodline is sirens. My bloodline is mermaids. I come from mermaid bloodline. Okay. I'm half fish, half human. Someone also could be a great swimmer. Also half fish, half human right here. Someone wants to get a blood sample of okay, so this is what I feel is going on, Virgo. Someone could be out there in the ocean, they come across a mermaid. And I know like my stories are so far-fetched, but like I said, I like to tell unique stories. Someone comes across a mermaid. Someone wants to get a sample out of a mermaid. They want to get the blood serum out of a mermaid. Okay. Or there's that mermaid. They want to know what kind of DNA she has. If we could just get a vial of her blood, is what I heard. All right. False person and courtship. I got really tired out of nowhere. And the main female. Is this the story of the Little Mermaid again? You know how the Little Mermaid saw the sailor. She thought he was cute, so he went to Ursula, and or she went to Ursula instead of going to her father. She went to Ursula and asked if she could get a pair of legs so she could be with Homeboy, right? But that wasn't her true form. She she grew her legs because she gave up her voice. I believe she gave up her voice. All right, gave up her voice so she could be with that man, but she wasn't even really being her true self. That man would have accepted her as a mermaid anyways. And I've told this story many times on the Virgo reading. So very typical reading. This is the old Disney story, The Little Mermaid. This is the typical Little Mermaid story. But you do know that sirens and mermaids have very different ones. They're nothing like they're more like the Ursula story more than the Little Mermaid and the Little Crab or whatever. It's it's a lot more darker with the sirens. There's a lot of stories about men trying to get the siren so they can cook her and eat her and get her their eternal because they eat her, like I said, the bloodline, the flesh or whatever, they get special powers. They hunt the mermaids. So mermaids are very careful. That's why they say mermaids, sirens, they tend to use their voice to lure men to their death because men, if not, the man entraps them and tries to eat them. There, I feel like there's a long history about man trying to trap the mermaid for her gifts. It's the same thing because they say that sirens have a beautiful voice. So in the industry, there's a lot of sirens with beautiful voices and they can hypnotize you with their looks and all they have to do is sing, but they're owned by like an Ursula or owned by a man that just wants to use them for their gifts and gifts only. It's got nothing like love. It's more of a ownership. I make money out of your body, your vocals, your talents. I make money out of that. Like this is the story of this Little Mermaid. There's also stories of Little Mermaids being used for experiments because I've heard so many of them. I've heard the one, the trapped mermaid, and because she was trying to impress the guy, and they ended up trapping her and using her for display. Another one, a guy courts a mermaid and tries to have her as the main meal amongst the rich. I've heard of the mermaid that when she cries out pearls. So the emperors will go and on purposely like put a mermaid under distress so she can cry and create pearls. So, but if you ever think about the mermaids are so talented. They can sing, they can swim, they have a beautiful physique. Well, this is how they play them out in Disney, that they have a beautiful physique, all of this. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Gorgeous. Look at that. Ain't that beautiful? Perfect tits, all of that. She's gorgeous. And then they have men too. They're not just women, they're men. Gorgeous men. Gorgeous, beautiful, just beautiful. Like it will make you want to be a mermaid. But if you become a mermaid, you can't have those legs. And you become part of something else that isn't of land. It becomes water. I mean, we will have to ask the little mermaid how she felt about being from turning into a human and then turning back into a fish. And there's often tales that say that if you see a mermaid in a lagoon, it's bad luck. So I would like to beg to differ on the whole beautiful scenery on that. I've also seen movies where the mermaid she eats humans. She'll make you go fish for humans for them. I've heard stories, and then there's this true one, I believe, like somewhere in Latin America, where there has been cases where a pregnant woman would see a mermaid, and her child will be born with fused legs. Then there's one on the Mexican culture with Cantiflas, where they said that he became famous because of mermaids, and so to honor the mermaids, he built a mansion by the water in Acapulco. It still exists, and it has statues of mermaids there. Sudden wealth. If you manage to get a mermaid to fall in love with you, all of a sudden you become rich. But they come with demands. Like they say they expect you to bring them a sacrifice for fame and power and stuff like that, things of the land that only the ocean can give to you. They say to be careful, going into the ocean when you hear the singing. Because, like I said, the mermaid got herself some legs. But do you see how they're kind of fused together? They're not like open, but they're still fused. El nopal, genetically. A lot of people that come from the islands, they have a lot of stories with the mermaids. You got to be careful with all that beauty. With all that beauty. Because someone can become absolutely obsessed with it. With real sirens, real mermaids that have two legs, that are walking amongst us, singing to the top of their lungs, captivating your soul every time they sing. And I need you to bring some money to me. They tell you sweet things, like they open up, oh, like, and you're just right there, oh, like all of a sudden you're teleporting somewhere else, right? But I feel like I could see the mermaid in your eyes. Like that's, I don't know, like it's a hypnotizing look. Like I see you and your mermaid eyes. I feel like that's what it takes. It's just the looks, they look so perfect. They look so perfect. But here's the thing. What kind of mermaid did you catch? Gosh.